Okay, so today's Lunch and Learn is all about protecting your data with a tool called LastPass. And we have Milt here today to kind of walk us through that and share with us how he uses it. I also use it, so I can share that as well. So Milt, take it away.
How's it going? So so first off, I wanted to just start off by talking about passwords really quickly, just so people can understand why it's really necessary to use secure passwords and why a password manager can help us with that. One of the biggest things, people have always had trouble with since we started using passwords on computers was, remembering really complicated passwords. So people have always had tricks to, use the same password, add a new digit to the end or something like that, or, lots of little just ways to get around using a complex password and making it less complex for us. One of the things that people do in that vein is using the same password in multiple places. I know I was certainly guilty of it for a very long time, and I know most folks do. So like if you have one complex password that you can remember, people will use that one on like every website they go to. It's my email password, it's my bank password, it's my whatever password. And that's the one they use, or very small variations of it. And actually that issue, using the same password reuse, is probably the most insecure thing anyone does with a password. And people don't realize that, even if it's a really secure password. And the reason is we've become so used to using that same password. You'll go onto a random website, sign up for something, just trying it out, put in a username, put in a password, put in your email address because, they got to send you an email to let you know you're signing up for it. A lot of those random websites are not very secure. Sometimes they are literally made up, for this purpose. They can clone a real website, set up the whole system, and then all they're doing is capturing user data. So if someone goes in, signs up, they've got your email address, and now they've got your password that you probably use on 10 websites. And if it's your email password, they pretty much have everything, because once they have your email, they go into your email, they can say, hey, let's reset the password for your bank, even if you do use a different one. And now they've reset your bank password, and they can do all sorts of things. But yeah, password reuse is probably the biggest insecurity people have with passwords these days. And something like LastPass can really help with that. There are multiple password managers, and I'm talking about one called LastPass right now because it's the one I use. I know there are others, and some folks will tout their benefits and things. Really, any of them are fine. And I'm just going to go over LastPass a little. I'm not actually going to show you mine because I don't want to have anything recorded. I've got a lot of passwords in there for our systems, but I will link to a bunch of demos and things. But really, LastPass is a password manager, and the reason it's called LastPass, it's in a similar vein of thinking to using one password for everything. It is the last password you'll ever need. That's what the thought was behind the name. Basically, you're going to want to make one very secure password that is the only one you really need to remember. And that is the one to log into LastPass so that it can remember every other password for you. And not only remember them, but it also generates passwords for you. Most folks who are using Chrome will know that Chrome does suggest saving passwords these days, and it will also suggest secure passwords for you on many websites if you've seen that when you're creating a new account. And that's great. And Chrome's built-in password manager is actually not a bad password manager at all. It will generate fairly secure passwords. It will fit into most websites and be utilized. The problem with it is really just that it's then putting, as Greg mentioned, I think last week, putting all of your eggs in one basket. You're using Google, and then you're using your Chrome to manage it. It's the same password generally to access your Google account as you might be saving in your Google Manager. But it's also that Google's system is really just within Chrome. LastPass is cross-platform. You can have LastPass installed on your phone. You can have it installed on Chrome, Firefox. You can use it in, I think this is a Safari version, but you can use it really across almost any system. And iPhone, Android, doesn't really matter. LastPass will cover everything. So basically what you're going to do when you're setting up LastPass is you just make an account, and it really does want you to be secure here. So this is the one recommendation I can make is make the LastPass password secure, but very, very important, don't forget it, don't lose it, because if you do, it becomes very difficult to get access to that. There are password recovery methods, but if you really fail to get your LastPass password, you lose access to almost everything, and that's because, again, they're trying to be very secure. One of the things that occurs very frequently with passwords is that there are phishing attacks, and when I say phishing attacks, some people know what that means, but basically it's just social engineering. A lot of times what can happen is, you'll set up a system, set up an account, and then there's very easy things that attackers can do. Send you an email that looks super official. Oh, just click this link to reset. And when you do, they're capturing all the information you're typing in there. It's not real. It's not really a reset or things like that. So that can cause issues. And so LastPass, so that their information doesn't get compromised in that way, is a little more secure in that than other locations. They're not going to let you have, a ton of attempts at getting back into your account, at remembering this stuff or resetting this, because they don't want an attacker to do that to you. So making sure you have a secure password and keeping it safe, remembering it, is super important. One thing, there are different kinds of password security. So let's talk about those really quickly. When you're in a classroom setting, as many of you are or have been in the past, although of course not now, one of the kinds of password security is not having passwords written down on slips of paper on your desk or something, because someone accessing your computer right there with you, or in that room, is going to be able to find those passwords. That sort of password security is important for that sort of setting. But in general, these days, actually, I tell folks, write a password down. It's okay, because the biggest vector for attack is online, is not physically at your computer where you're going to be writing things down. So certainly keeping it secure when you're in a classroom setting or something like that. Don't have it under your keyboard. Don't have it, there. But one thing you can do, and a lot of people don't realize it's totally fine, write a password down. And if it's something you keep on your person, it's generally okay, but not something you're going to leave somewhere. So maybe don't leave it in a purse or a bag. If you have a laptop case, don't leave your password in there, because if you ever forget that somewhere or lose it, then somebody's got your whole thing. But like in a wallet that you don't really set down or put somewhere, that's fine. But having it somewhere secure, or even just in your home, set into a filing cabinet, fine. Again, someone's going to have to break into your house, steal your password, and then decide to do online attacks. That's not really what's happening these days. What's happening is you've got an insecure password because you want something easy to remember, and someone's going to attack you online, and they're going to get into your stuff. So really having a password written down, or something like, just a backup, is not a bad idea for that one password. That's the only one, LastPass, if you're utilizing a system like this. Because now we get into the second kind of security, which is online. Online security, you really, as I was mentioning at the beginning, need to have different passwords on every website, and not just minorly different. If you use a very simple password where you change the digit at the end, that's my third time I'm using this password, or the fourth time. It's really not going to work, because again, if one of those sites becomes compromised, now all of your sites are, and a very minor change is something that an attacker using a digital system can very quickly run through iterations of that password and find, oh, it's just a couple of digits off. There we go. I'm in now. So what LastPass does, you generate that one very secure password. That's what gets you into your LastPass account and to your LastPass vault, I believe is what they're calling it now. But basically, it is the list of all of the sites you access and the passwords, usernames and passwords for that, I should say. And there's a couple of good things that does for you. LastPass, functions almost like a bookmarking feature as well. So you can utilize it to access those sites. One of the things, as I was mentioning, was a phishing attack. Sometimes attackers will set up fake websites that look very much like the real ones to get your password information. Here's a Google login page. Looks just like Google. They've captured the Google login page to make it look very secure. You're typing your username. It's like, great, type in your password. Awesome. Hey, that didn't work. I wonder why. And then it's redirected you back to a real Google page where the second time, hey, it worked, but they've just taken your password that first time. So one thing that LastPass does is, because you can use it as the password or as the bookmarking feature, if you go through LastPass to get to a website, it brings you to the link that you have it saved at. So you have got the login page saved. So that's the first level of security. You're going to the right place to sign in. And then it's saving your username and password. And again, LastPass is going to save your username. Your username on almost all websites these days is your email address, which is fine for the most part. Again, there are some insecurities in getting phishing attacks, or if that site becomes compromised, they have your email address already because we're using that as our username. And if you're using the same password, now they've got your email password. But with LastPass, every time you build an account in LastPass or add a new set of credentials to LastPass, they're going to want you to generate a secure password. So when you go to a website, change your password, LastPass will offer to save that for you. So every time you go to a website, LastPass has a little pop-up. It's going to be an extension that we're going to install in Chrome. And I'll pop up a new window in Chrome and just go through like the basic stuff in a minute, but just so you can understand what's happening. You're going to add the website in Chrome, or excuse me, in LastPass. It's going to say, or excuse me, let me start over. You're going to go to a website and you're going to make a new account or update your password on an existing account. So you're going to go into that website, set up your account, change your password, whatever it is. And when you do so, LastPass is very good about this. It's going to offer to save that for you. And you've probably seen Chrome doing that right now. It's very similar. It's just saying, is this your username and that's the password you want? Great. But with LastPass, it's also actually going to be actively asking, hey, this is a password field. Do you want me to pick a password for that? And when it does that, it actually has a whole bunch of criteria, which we can, you can tweak complexity on and things like that. But it's going to generate a random password out of letters, numbers, symbols, whatever it can. Some websites have different requirements. They have to be within within 8 to 14 digits or more than 8 digits. They have to have a number or an uppercase or lowercase letter, things like that. All of those complexity requirements can be adjusted to meet the requirements of the website in that password generation. So we'll go through that. And one thing that LastPass does that we really just cannot do, is generate extremely long, very complex passwords and remember them perfectly. I have for a very long time used extremely complex passwords that most people have no ability to remember, like 14 digits, completely random numbers, letters, symbols, go. But even I can't remember many of those. So, for a few of my, sites that I use frequently, I've got very complex passwords that I know, but generally I'm allowing LastPass to do that for me now because it can generate even longer, 30-digit passwords, 60-digit passwords, whatever. Some websites won't take those. They have to be 14, 18 characters. But you can generate extremely secure passwords. And that's something that no attacker is going to be able to, programmatically generate that kind of password or run through permutations to get to that password. And because LastPass is generating these completely randomly, it's not giving you duplicates. You're never going to have the same password on 2 websites. That's one of the most secure features of it. And it's remembering all of those. Now, you can always go in and actually see those passwords. It's not like LastPass is obfuscating this for you. If you want to, you can go in and find your password for a given website and then enter that. But LastPass is also doing that work for you most of the time. When we go to a website that LastPass has saved, it's going to just enter the username and password for you. You don't even have to think about it. Go to Google. There's my username. There's my password. I'm in. There are a few websites you'll run into every once in a while where it can't autofill like that, but you can go right up to the LastPass extension, grab the password, and pop it in. It's very simple, and really is going to help, I think, everybody who decides to use it. So give me 1 second here, and I'm going to share my screen and start a new LastPass account so you can see how this works. Okay, so I hope everyone is seeing this now. I'm in a new Chrome session here. And as I mentioned last week, I'm in a totally separate profile. So this is my Chrome profile for my made up account here. This is me. And I've just searched LastPass in Google. And that's the only thing I've done at all here, just from Google, searched for it. And you'll know the first thing is an advertisement, but it's exactly what I want also. It's just LastPass.com. I could also have just typed that up here. LastPass.com and go. So when you go there, it's going to just have you sign up. LastPass is free. That's the one thing to note. As long as you're using it, for yourself to remember passwords for you, it's completely free. You can upgrade to a premium, which is a fairly cheap cost. It adds some features, and we can look at those if we have time later. But for right now, we're just going to sign up for LastPass. And I'm going to sign up with a test student account I have made at the school so that I can do this. So this is, as they're signing up, and I hope everybody can see this right now. Everybody can, yes? Okay, good. This master password, this is that last password you will ever need sort of thing. So note, it's got fairly steep requirements here. It wants 12 characters in length. This is not, an 8-character password like a lot of sites allow you to have. At least one number, one uppercase and lowercase letter, and it cannot be your email. So it's essentially, asking you make a very unique password. Now, one thing you can do, and they're even giving you a little bit of a suggestion here. Another thing that has been a fairly recent trend in password use is making up what people call a passphrase. Now, not like a line from some story or a book or a movie or a television show that is frequently utilized, but if you have, just a sequence of words that you can remember, and it doesn't have to even be like a sentence or, words in sentence type order. If you can remember, Foxtrot Alpha 12, that's something more complex than, just picking, random letters that are short. It can be much longer, and you can pick, 3 or 4 words, and that makes a fairly long password. And you can capitalize some letters in there. Again, that makes a fairly secure password. But I generally recommend making up a very secure password for this. Again, there are some tips in here right off the bat. Again, these folks are in the business of passwords. So when you look at this link here, what makes a password strong, they're going to explain a lot of things I just did and more than I know even. But essentially, they're asking you to make up a very secure password here. So I'm going to make one up. Of course, I need to type properly. Okay. And then they have you confirm that password. Now, as I was typing, these things all checked off. They said, okay, great. You've met all of the complexity requirements for this password. So this is very important, again, for you to remember this password. because it's going to be access to your entire account. Now you can put a reminder in here. With the reminders, this is something you'll see on a lot of websites too. Hey, can you put in a reminder for your password? Don't type the password there, although I don't believe LastPass will let you do that. And also don't type anything that is going to really give away the password. If you're using a really completely random password, you're not going to be able to remind yourself of it for the most part anyway. But it's just something to help you remember, oh, wait a minute, what was that? Put it in, but not something someone else is going to recognize. Because if you do put in a reminder that's too explanatory, some attacker could use that to figure out your password. So I'm going to sign up here. Okay. So note, and I'm sure you can all see this right now, this is not LastPass here. This is Google's password manager. And as we mentioned, Chrome has that built in. So Chrome is offering to save my LastPass password right now. I am going to very clearly let everyone know, don't do that. Don't save your LastPass password in Google. Just because, again, you don't want your most secure password, that one that you now have as going to be sort of like the keys to your kingdom of passwords, out there in Google being synced across. Again, Google's very secure. I'm not suggesting they aren't, but you just don't want to have things that out there. I don't even want my password saved in Google at all for this. You just want to have it for you and you alone, nowhere else. Again, it's the only password you really need to remember, because LastPass will do everything else for you. So don't let Chrome remember it. You remember it. So I'm going to say no. I don't want that. So I've signed up for LastPass, and now LastPass is letting me know, okay, so now you've got it, but now we want to install the extension. So I'm going to hit that, install LastPass. And it's going to bring me to the Chrome Web Store, where it's giving me the button to add LastPass to Chrome. So I'm going to do that. It's going to pop up and say, are you sure you want to do that? It's going to be able to look at data on websites, and that's good in this case. I do always recommend folks read these warnings or informational bits here, because a lot of times we don't like to look at these. Just like, yeah, just hit it, hit yes. But definitely take a look. In this case, LastPass, because it is a password manager, needs to see the data on websites, and it's saying change all your data on websites. Now, some of these warnings can be a little aggressive. It's letting you know it can change data that you put into a website. That's good in this case. We want it to enter my password. So it needs to be able to enter data into those websites. And what it's saying is, when it says change, what it means is it's going to be looking at password boxes, putting a little icon there for me for LastPass. You'll see that in a moment. So in this case, that's good. And it's also going to display notifications to us. Also good. But if you're installing a news extension and it's telling you it's going to do those things, maybe don't install that extension. But in this case, we're good. So adding it. When that installs, it's going to have a new little icon right up here in the corner. It's taking a moment. There it is. Okay, so now we have LastPass. It is in. I'm not going to turn on sync right now. This is a feature to synchronize extensions between all of your Chrome uses. So if you're using Chrome on 2 laptops or 2 different devices, it will synchronize the extensions between both. For me, it's just a test account, so I'm not turning that on. But LastPass is now installed, but I'm not logged in yet. You see how it's yellow right now? So we've added it, and LastPass is very good. They're walking us right through this, saying we've added the extension, but now I have to log into it. So when I click, so now again, this is going to be logging right back in to the LastPass account with the master password I just created. If I typed it properly. Okay. So 2 checkboxes here. 1, remember email. That's my username essentially for this account. And 2, remember password. I'm really going to recommend, again, that folks do not have this remember your password. It's tempting, and they do offer it, but I think it's a bad idea. This is, again, the only password you really have to remember. Typing it in every once in a while is not a terrible thing. It will be helping you so often with other websites. Don't have it remember it. Because, again, once that's stored in here, It's stored not just in LastPass, but in this extension. If someone gets access to your computer, if that's remembering your password, they have everything. So again, don't have it save it. I'm going to log in. When you're logged in, it turns red. So it's going to try to walk you right through adding passwords, adding secure passwords to a bunch of common sites, showing me 4 sites right here that are very common usage for people: Google, Facebook, PayPal, Netflix. But I'm going to skip that for right now. And it's saying, okay, you're all set. It's going to, again, walk you through some more stuff. I'm going to have it do this for me. So what I'm doing is this is saying, okay, we've got LastPass. Let's go to your vault, and we'll take a look at it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit let's go. So this is the LastPass vault. And right now, I have no sites recorded. So there's nothing to see here, no sites in. What we're going to do is we're going to start adding websites. I definitely recommend for folks, if you are just setting this up for the first time, run through the tutorials they're giving you. They're going to explain how these things work and why they're doing things certain ways. But what I'm going to do is just go to a website and have it make up a password for me and record that password. So let's go to just Gmail for right now. I'm going to my Gmail. So I have signed in with this account on this system before, so I'm gonna sign back into that account. Now, I've started to sign in. I put in my username, enter my password. So right now, this icon appears, and this is something folks will see when you're using LastPass a lot. This little, horizontal 3 dots in the square, that's LastPass. When I click that, it's going to say, I don't have a password for this site right now. I can't fill it for you because I haven't recorded it. But you'll see some other things. We can search. Sometimes the website we want has a slightly different name, or we're logging into a different URL than it's used to. Again, generally with LastPass, the reason this is helpful is because if you're logging into the website you should be, it should have a password saved. If it's trying to log you into a fake Google site right now, you're not going to find one. So I generally recommend, being aware when those things are mismatched. If you're signing in and you can't find your saved password, you might not be on the right website. But it also has this little icon right here, which will offer to generate a secure password. Now, the problem is I've already got a password for this account. For right now, I've got to just sign in with that password. So I'm going to do that. And when I hit next, you're going to see LastPass is going to pop up right here. Now, Google's offering to pop up here as well. One thing, if you are using LastPass, I'm going to recommend we shut off the Google Password Manager. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. But for right now, I'm just going to close this one. This is Google's Password Manager. LastPass is always going to have this separate dialog that lists the name LastPass. So it's got an icon here it's showing for this website, Google. It knows it's a Google account. It's got my password. Now, the way Google has you sign in, it's a 2-step process. You put in your username first, and then your password on a second screen. That's why it doesn't have both recorded here. On websites where those are both recorded on the same screen, it will generally capture both for you. But I would add just my username here. So again, that's just going to be my email address in this case. And it's going to save this password. You can also do a lot of organization with LastPass. You can have things saved in folders. So these are my email accounts. These are my bank accounts, however you want to organize it. You don't have to. And so I'm not going to in this case. And I'm going to add this account. So this is going to add this account to LastPass for me. And there we go. It's done. That account is now saved. And if you are on a website, in this case Google, and you click the LastPass icon, you're going to see your credentials for that right here. It's now, you can see that it has a saved account. If you're on another website where you click that and you're logged in, it's not going to show you something like this unless it's saved. So what I want to do, though, is let LastPass now make up a better password for me for this website, because the one I have for it, I'm going to just assume is not great. And again, if you're using LastPass, I really recommend you go through, change passwords on a ton of your websites. You don't have to go through and like pre-find all your websites and try to change them the minute you sign up for LastPass. But I really do recommend that, the next time you go to a website, think about changing your password for that site, letting LastPass make it a more secure and individualized password for that site, so that you're not reusing passwords and things like that, and so that you do have really very secure passwords. So you still have to change passwords on websites like you always would. You can't let LastPass actually go through and change it for you. You have to go through the normal change process on any given website. So in this case, I have to manage my Google account to change the password. So I'm going to do that and go to security. So here we go. We've got it set up. It said I've last changed this password on April 21st, but I'm going to click that. Now, see how it filled right in for me? That was LastPass. LastPass just filled in my password. It knows that's your Google account. So I'm signing back in. LastPass is still trying to be super helpful here. It has filled in my old password in the new password slot, because it's just trying to auto-fill those things for me. But because it is a new password slot, LastPass also brings up that other icon I was showing you, which is the generate a secure password. When I click that, LastPass is going to pop right up, give me a super complicated password that most folks will never be able to remember on their own. It does give you some options. Note, it does have this little complexity bar here. By default, the password complexity it's giving you is 4 out of their 5 ranking. Not even the highest ranking, because it's trying to make it, fit within most sites' requirements. Some sites don't let you generate extremely long passwords, like 99-character passwords. So it sets it at 12. You can crank that up to 18 for most websites too. And so, changing that, not a problem. Now it's going to be much more secure. You see it's gone up to the 5 ranking. If I were to crank it down, it's telling me this is no good. And you can see as you move that, and of course I can't find something in the middle here, but it's generally going to tell you not great until it hits very high. So I'm going to set this to 18 again, just so you can see. Okay, so now it's generating an extremely long password. It also does give you the options to make it easy to say or easy to read. There are different requirements that those are following. Avoiding numbers and special characters, so you can just say, letters. Easy to read will make sure that you're having things that are too similar, I's and uppercase I, lowercase l, O's and zeros, things like that taken out, so that you don't accidentally mistranscribe something when you're trying to look through. But all characters is the most secure, and that's where it's really using a whole bunch of funny stuff that is, again, super hard to remember, super hard to even type. Some of these are I have to hit Shift and 8 to hit an asterisk, things like that you might not normally do. But anyway, I'm going to hit fill. So I've had it generate a password, and I'm going to fill it. And what that means is it's going to put it into those 2 boxes for me. So that is my new password for Google. Now, when I hit change password, that's actually changing the password. But also it's saying, do you want to update this Google account in LastPass? Because I've just changed or will be changing that password. So I do want to update this as well. Now, if you don't hit this immediately, just to show you, it's still going to keep this. I'm going to hit change here. LastPass is still going to say, did you want to update that? And yes, I do. Because now I have actually changed my Google password. I'm going to have LastPass remember the new password. There you go. So LastPass really is doing a lot of the work for you, and it will give you those notifications to walk you through things. So now my Google password is that extremely complex password that it just generated for me. So the next time I log into Google, I need to use that password. Luckily, LastPass remembers it, and I don't have to. So I'm going to sign out. And again, I'm going to click, sometimes you'll have to type in your username. Again, it depends on which website you're using. Google kind of remembers your username mostly for you. But here you go. You see, LastPass has entered my extremely complicated password here for me. I don't need to remember that. When you look at this, it's telling you, yep, you have one account. This is it. It's auto-filled it already. But again, this is just showing you that it's LastPass that's doing that. Next. And I'm right back into my account now with a much more secure password. So that's it. It's really that simple. LastPass then, from then on out, will just slowly be collecting your passwords. And it's going to have a list. If I go back to my vault now, you'll see I've got just Google in there right now. That's the only account that I have saved in LastPass. But as you add more, you're going to see this fill out for Facebook, Netflix, whatever it is that you're using, your bank, all of those different things. And it will save them all. And that is really the best way to manage complex passwords across multiple websites, is having something like this, like LastPass, to remember all of that stuff for you. Does anybody have any questions?
No, that was very well explained. Thank you.
Great.
As a testimonial, I've been using it for 11 years and have all professional, personal passwords into various accounts. And even when I'm consulting, if I'm turning over a large amount of data to like a client, I do it in the, a secured like LastPass kind of form. I give them a LastPass account with all of the account passwords for all like computers and everything like that. So it's extremely reliable and they keep it up to date, and it's a really good product.
Absolutely. And I see in the chat, Greg Stiles also mentioned, they do have some advanced features if you do need to manage things at an additional level. The one he mentioned was a family account. So you can set up an account for a family and manage passwords for other folks. So if you're helping other people manage accounts, it can help remember their accounts too. And you can, basically everyone has their own login, at least as far as I recall that feature. I haven't used it in a long time.
I have the family account.
Yeah, I think everybody has their own login, and you can like delegate password access to those folks. So they get what they need. Go ahead.
Yeah, and the other thing I like about it is there is a request access feature. So like, let's say someone in my family gets in an accident and they're unable to communicate or they die suddenly. You can set it so like I'll request access to that account, and you can set it for like there's a waiting period. There could be no waiting period. You could do an hour, you could do 24 hours, you could do 7 days, right? So I have my hours are set for 24 hours. And I'll get a notification that someone's requested access to my account, and I can deny access right there. So if I don't deny access after 24 hours, they will have access to my account, which is a nice safety feature in case something happens. You know how to get in there and get into their accounts if you need to. We are pretty much out of time right now, you guys. So thank you so much for going over that, Milt. And I know I use it. It's super helpful. I can vouch that once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to use. So give it a whirl.
Great.
All right, everybody.
Have a good day, everybody.
Yeah. Have a good afternoon. Bye.